What's up, guys, and welcome back to the Concrete Edge right here on Deco-Crete TV. My name's Jeff, and on today's show, we're going to take a look at 3 things that you can do to make concrete floor coating system last and function long term. So stay tuned, and you're going to learn all about it. So, man, I gotta tell you right now, concrete floor coatings are one of the fastest growing opportunities in the decorative concrete industry. I mean, flooring companies have been popping up like crazy over the last 5 years or so. And I mean, even with all that being said, there is still plenty of room for more. I mean, coatings are really just one of the very best ways to add beauty and durability to pretty much any interior concrete floor. For the contractor who's looking to get started in the floor coatings, I mean, this is also a great opportunity. I mean, the more contractors that are offering coatings means more coatings hitting the ground, which means more people are going to see them, and this is pushing the popularity to all-time highs. Even with all the new installers out there, I mean, there are still more potential jobs than there are contractors to perform them. So if you're looking to get into this, I mean, there are some things that you're going to need to know before you just start slapping down coatings. And I mean, you know, that is actually pretty extensive. There's trainings that need to be done. There's a lot more to it than this. But here are the 3 most important things to ensure long-term success. Now, first up on the list is going to be moisture. And honestly, this should always be the first step in the process. In fact, this is something I would recommend doing during the estimate phase just to make sure that the floor is even coatable or not. I mean, it is incredibly rare, but there are situations where that floor just has too much moisture. There's nothing that anybody's gonna be able to do about it, and that coating system is probably not a good option. Now again, those floors are incredibly rare, but some testing up front is gonna make sure that you don't run into that and end up coating it and having it fail over time. Now, most concrete floors are gonna like to live somewhere in that 4 to 4.5% moisture range by content, and I think that's what you're gonna find most of the time with this meter. If you have it, you know, getting too far over 5%, that's when you need to start being worried. Now, all coatings manufacturers are gonna have a spec on how much moisture their coating can tolerate. And most of them aren't going to relate to this electronic meter, or basically essentially a surface testing meter. Most of them are going to go by relative humidity, and they're also going to go by pounds per square foot, or maybe pounds per square inch per 1,000 square feet might be something else you see. But no matter what, there's always going to be a spec on this. So make sure you do your homework and know where you need to be, because again, concrete floor coatings, as great as they are not moisture tolerant. They don't let moisture pass up through them, meaning that they're basically unbreathable. And so this is one of those things that you just need to make sure is right, because moisture is going to be the worst enemy. So next up is going to be surface profile or porosity. And this is the other thing about concrete floor coatings, is that they're usually pretty high viscosity. They are not meant to dive right into a smooth trowel concrete floor, which is what you're going to see for most interior applications. And so doing some sort of prep to the surface is going to be vital for getting this coating to stick long term. Now, what are we looking for profile or porosity? I mean, again, every manufacturer is going to have a spec on, usually it's going to have some sort of a CSP rating. CSP stands for concrete surface profile. And so, you know, again, there's going to be certain coatings might require more or less, but generally most coatings are going to require a CSP of at least 2. Now, above and beyond CSP, I mean, I really look at, you know, porosity being very important as well. It is certainly possible to create, you know, a profile on the surface while you're finishing of something that could actually be a pretty high CSP, but not a ton of porosity. It's also possible to have a very porous floor without a ton of profile. So again, follow the directions for whatever manufacturer you're using. But personally, what I'm looking for is a floor that is very porous and open. There is no surface paste left. Now, there is a couple different ways of getting there, and the main 2 would be diamond grinding and shot blasting. There's no right or wrong here, although generally, for the most part, you're going to see diamond grinding pretty much being the go-to option. Now, there are tons of different options out there, even just for the grinding. The important thing is that you're getting that floor prepped to where it'll be able to hold on to that coating and last you a long, long time. Now, a couple things I would not recommend for trying to create the profile or porosity. The first one would be acid etching. You know, I know that there are some really old school epoxy guys. You might still acid etch, and if it's working for you, it's working for you. But you certainly aren't going to see Deco-Crete putting anything on their labels that says that acid etching is a good method of floor prep. The other one would be sanding. A lot of people just try to sand the floor with a swing machine or something, and that is just really not going to open up the pores the way we need to. It's definitely not going to create any profile. So I would just stick to diamond grinding or shot blasting. So last thing on the list is going to be proper mixing. And you know, the first 2 points, moisture and surface of profile or porosity, those are things that aren't really gonna affect the job today. I mean, you could honestly completely skip those first 2 points and the coating's gonna go down fine. And you know, the downsides of that is something that's probably not gonna show its face for 6 months, maybe a year, maybe even 2 or 3 years. But at some point, that coating is gonna all come back off if the moisture was too high or if there wasn't enough profile or porosity on the floor. Mixing, however, this is one that you will know the very next day, maybe even the same day if this part gets messed up, because this is what actually makes the coating form a film and get hard. Now, for tips on mixing, because you know the thing is that depending on the coating product, there is going to be varying instructions, but the most important things are that you hit the ratio right on. This is not guesswork. If it says 2-to-1 mix ratio, make sure that is properly measured out, 2 parts of one, 1 part of another. Use a mixing container. Do not try to guess. The other thing would be mixing equipment and the time of mixing. And you know, I've honestly seen people who've had epoxy floors not get hard because they just simply used too small of a mixer and it didn't properly whip the product together. And then there's also mixing times. Maybe they didn't mix it long enough. You know, just follow all the instructions. This doesn't have to be a hard thing. If you do this right, it will work every time, but just be precise and be thorough on the mixing. So quick little recap before we finish up. We have moisture, we have surface profile or porosity, and we have mixing. And I can promise you that if you do all 3 of these things right, that coating will get hard, it will function, and it will last a long time. Well guys, that's pretty much it for this week's show. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to tune in. And man, I gotta say, we just really do appreciate all the support that you guys show to the channel. So from all of us here at Deco-Crete TV, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.